All right, so what happens at like 13ish, that era, that makes you decide, hey, well, when do you discover like actually get into hip hop in a more focused kind of way? I guess, is that around 13, or is that
That's
happening
around
before?
13. Yeah, that's around 13.
So what like
It
triggers it?
it um a lot. Being bullied in school was one
Okay.
thing. The loss of my mother was another thing, and that was like that was just like that was it. That just tipped the scale over. Um, so I lost my mom around like 12 years old, and she loved music so much. You know, Selena was her favorite singer of all time. She'd buy shirts of Selena. She would listen to all her cassettes. She would listen. She would walk around with a Walkman. I don't know if you remember a Walkman
Yeah,
back
of
in the
course.
day,
Yeah.
and the CD player. So she would walk around with that, and she would sing her heart out in the shower. So like again, you know, music was it went through my family, and I felt like I was the beacon at that point. And so the loss of my mom definitely was like that was it for me. You know, I started writing more. Because at that time I couldn't talk to anybody about it. You
Right.
know, I couldn't. It was so much for me as a kid to like, okay, this is what's going on. I still have to go to school. I went to school like 3 days after. I went right back. I had to finish school. And you know, when I went back to school, everybody, you know, we went to the auditorium, and my dad was really cool with the principal at the time. So the whole school took a moment of silence and said, you know, said their farewells. So that definitely touched me. So that is itself, along with, you know, the loss of her, and you know, and music going through the family was it. That was it.
So,
So around that time, it was good.
and was it like hip hop at that point that you were into, or were you trying to just like
It
write
was it was it was
poetry?
hit it was hip hop. It was both actually. It was spoken word, it was poetry, and it was rap, it was hip hop, you know. One of my good buddies, you know, I call him Kid Bully. You know, he taught me the ropes of how to rap and stuff like that. And I had a worthy adversary named Young X. Um, and we would go at it. We would beatbox. You know, we would have like one guy, you know, banging a pen and a pencil in the cafeteria, and we would go at it. You know, spit, you know, 16 bars. We would do that. We would have different, you know, different young talent, you know, different artists at the time go up, and we were all trash. We all knew we were all garbage, but it was the simple fact that we thought we would one up the next guy, and some of the things that we said were actually pretty personal, and sometimes we got into pretty, you know, heated arguments about it. And you know, we once we got into arguments, you know, a couple fights broke out, but at the end of the day, it was all for the love of music. You know, we all came back to that, you know, realization that that's how much words it affected us, and that's how much we wanted to share with other people. That we wanted our words to stretch. We wanted our words to, you know, empower and touch other people. So, you know, around that time, yeah, that was it. That was the music. That was the time we were just I was getting serious with music, and hip hop and rap was
Yeah.
definitely the culture, because my first CD I bought was Notorious B.I.G. And actually I didn't buy it. I actually got one of my friend's mother to buy it for me. And this is when I had my CD player. This was Ready to Die album. And then a couple years later, I got Nas album, the Illmatic album. I got so many different like CDs. I used to buy bootlegs, you know, off the back, you know, in the hood. There was this one guy that sold CDs and bootleg movies out of a black Mazda MPV. I'll never forget it. I was on Gates Ave in Bed-Stuy. This is about like 98, like 99 ish. Um, and I had a couple of dollars, and I was like, "Yo, I'm just trying to listen to some new music." Again, this is before like LimeWire. This is before all of that, so we had to go buy the shit in the store. And I bought it for a couple of dollars, and I had it, and like I knew it was bootleg because his album came with like I think it was like 14 songs or something like that, and I only was able to hear like seven of them, 7 to 8 of them. So like I only got familiar with like half the album, but yeah, it came from that time, you know.
Yo,
That
that's
that was
amazing. So yeah, the way you're doing this, these answers, perfect. This is exactly what it is. We trying to basically give context to your life, but also add context to the experience. Cause yo, one of the things that's big different is that like not everyone grows up the same, and sometimes people like don't understand that the world is kind of bigger than them. So hearing like your
Right.
story and how you went to the guy in the van and all this shit, like it adds kind of to the bigger collective of conscious understanding of how we all get into music. It's way different
Right.
than people would expect.
Right.
But my favorite part of what you said, and I think it's the biggest knowledge nugget in it, is when you said we knew we were trash, but in our minds we knew we were less trash than the guy that we're going against, and that was all
Right.
that mattered. And I'm like,
Right.
yo, if everybody approached music with that attitude, right? Like, I might not be good today, but I'm better than that guy, so
That
I'm
guy,
going all in.
right.
And all of a sudden, it's like a lot more people would get over themselves and like push
Oh yeah.
because we
Oh
can all
yeah.
find a that guy we're better than.
Yeah, we and you know it was all love. There was this guy named Cash, and he still raps and he still does this thing. His name is Pluto Cash, but and we're still friends on Facebook to this day. And I've known him, and this is junior high school. This is you talking over 15 years ago. You're already talking, and he's I think he still resides in Staten Island, and this guy would rap so fast, okay? Like I couldn't understand a word he was saying. But at the time, again, we all were trash. So I thought that was the dopest shit of all time. This guy just spitting so fast, and I'm like, no, and I'm like, I gotta write some of that shit down. And this is me, like, I'm brand new, I'm green as grass to the game, and I'm like, I gotta like try to absorb some type of energy and try to implement his energy into my style of art. And then there was one recording. I don't even know where it is. If somebody could find that recording of us in the school, oh no, it was actually in the schoolyard. If they could find that recording, I would pay them for that recording. We were all in like this semicircle, right? And the guys were playing ball
Were you
around us.
always going by Charlisoul if we're putting that out there? How would people
Oh
find
man,
this?
definitely. If you guys find it, call me. Like, call me. We were all like in a semicircle, and we were all just like rapping. And at the time, I went to this school called Andreas Huddy, and we fought a school called Mar 11. And from time to time, we would have like they would come to our court and play ball, or sometimes they would just come to our court and like start beef and whatever. And sometimes they would come to our court and they would bring their little like team of rappers or whatever, and we would have like you spit off, we would have like a little cipher or whatever. So we get there and we're all rapping. Now, mind you, this guy says something that's like so out of like context. Like I'm not even gonna repeat it. It's just so out of context. And today, like then you could say it. Now people are so.
Oh my word, that is a good way to put it. Out of context. I'm gonna jack that because it explains what you're trying to say in such a safe way.
Yeah. A lot of the things that we say were very vulgar and very aggressive, very assertive. So I'm not gonna dive too much into that story, but just know that when things were said and things in the heat of the moment, sometimes we got a little scrappy. For senior year, we actually had this is Flatbush Avenue. Flatbush Avenue is like Flatbush Junction, so it is like multiple streets that you can Google this area. There's multiple streets, multiple buses that branch off to different parts of Brooklyn, and you hop on a train, go to Manhattan. So we there, and the kids from the next school over so happen to be on the next bus. So we get off the bus, we about to go onto the train. So a huge fight breaks out Flatbush Junction. This is like 05, 06. 30, 40 people, whole bunch of people outside scrapping, people getting thrown on the bus, people getting pushed down the stairs, a whole bunch of people panicking. In like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, a whole bunch of cops come, everybody running, scattered, dipping, everybody running. All of this happened over some beef that wasn't even like, it was just like make-believe. It was like a fit. It wasn't even real. It was talking about like this whole pregnancy thing with this girl and this dude from the other school, and it was just this whole vibe. So we was out there fighting, and then it went from that to like the music, and it was like, yo, I know you, and it just got bad. So, again, you can't do any of this shit now. Then, it was different. But
I just add to that. I don't have like those experiences per se. I'm soft as fuck. I mean, I'm not as that soft, like, but like compared to a lot of places, I'm pretty soft as fuck. I know that. Cause yo, one of the things that comes up a lot when I talk to the New York folk on their come up was the fact that it's one thing to be like in a controlled environment saying some shit, and there's another thing to be in the street saying that same shit knowing you might not make it out that situation because you're saying that shit. And that was like one of those things where and it was like everybody from New York that like went through that like in the streets kind of vibe of freestyling and shit, how to, because you're saying some wild shit but you're on the next man's turf and you know, etc., etc. And I'm like, yo, that is super different than Facebook. You know, like it's so different in the reality of like how it could play out for somebody. So I empathize a little bit with what you're saying in regards to like I keep hearing people express that sentiment, and as you keep hearing it in different versions, it kind of adds this weight where it's like, yeah, nah, in this new world, like, yo, people film shit. It isn't the same as what it was.
Then you didn't like. Then you couldn't. You know, it was a low chance, a low probability that if you got jumped, there was somebody recording it. You know, a lot of the times, you know, I've won some fights, I've lost some fights. You know what I mean? I know when to fight, I know who to fight. You know, but at that time, there's no, you know who to fight. It's on site. It's right then and there. If you getting robbed, you getting robbed. If you getting held up, you getting held up. If you fighting, you getting jumped, you getting jumped. If you fighting somebody else, there was no live action. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook Live. It was just right then and there. And that's when I was talking about earlier. Everything back then was just raw. It was in your face. It was aggressive. It was assertive. It was right there. It was happening all the time. So yeah, definitely, you know, especially growing up in Bed-Stuy, you know, I got a lot of people that live in Queens, and I got a lot of people that live in the Bronx and in Harlem and Manhattan and all that. And I got a lot of goons that live in Brooklyn. And again, if you wasn't in the if you was in the wrong spot, you was in trouble, especially certain times of night, you knew, because I knew officers by name. you never want to know officer by name. You know what I mean? The amount of break-ins that happened back in the 90s, you know what I mean? The amount of carjackings, thefts, robberies, you know, vandalism. I mean, you know, it was crazy back in the 90s. Like back when I was a kid, you could hop on a train for like 75 cents, $1.25. That's when you could get on the bus. You know, now in New York, it's like $3. And especially in the projects, like, you go in the projects, you go in the hood, you know you was in the hood. Like, you got people outside in the crib, they just standing there, they grilling, people posted up, all black champion hoodie, Tim's on, they all making their plays, everybody doing their thing. They Marcus Garvey projects, you see different people standing around. You know, Brownsville projects, you see different people standing around. They had like blood affiliation day, you know, goons would come out, slicing girls' faces off right on the Ave. Like, it was like, there was no Facebook. It was there. It was aggressive. It was raw. It was in your face. So like, yeah, if you was in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, no matter if you was the random person, you could get caught. No problem.
That is definitely intense.
It's not like now. Now it's all like modernized. You know, they got like police officers on like eco-friendly scooters and shit. Like, it's different. You know what I mean? They up the ante on a police, but at the same time, it's like, we had to go through that rough patch of Brooklyn. Like, we had to go through that in order to, you know, progress to get to that safety where we at now.
Right.
But,
yeah. Fair enough.
You don't want to play with that. You don't want to be around. The 90s definitely was no joke. No joke.